Hey everybody, this is Kelly Nielsen here at Grace for Living After Loss. And on this channel, we discuss all things related to grief. What does it look like? What does it feel like? But most importantly for you, we share tips, tools, and resources for how to recover from grief and loss and get back to living a life that you love. For more resources, be sure to check out the description and subscribe to our channel. In this episode, we're going to be doing a first year overview after loss. For those of you that don't know, we have an entire playlist that breaks down the first year after loss into little bite-sized pieces. What you can expect in the first couple of weeks, the first couple of months, later in the year, and then the tail end of the year. And so I encourage you to watch those videos, and specifically whichever time frame you find yourself in right now, go find that appropriate video. That is going to be a help to you. But I want to speak here generally about the experience of the first year after loss to just kind of give you an overview. As I was preparing to do this video, I was thinking about it, and it's actually very similar to having a baby. For those of you that have had kids, just bear with me. When you have a child, your life gets turned upside down. Everything in an instant is different. And that's exactly what it's like when you lose someone you love. All of a sudden, in an instant, everything has changed. Your old way of living no longer exists, and you now need to discover a path and learn how to live in this new world that is without the physical presence of your loved one. So just like when you have a baby and your world is turned upside down, you're missing sleep, you're having to care for this baby, and everything else kind of needs to stop so that you can tend to the work of caring for an infant and newborn. It's actually very similar. When you first experience grief and loss, you're going to find that the rest of the world stops. You're going to have very little bandwidth to do anything besides managing your grief. Sometimes, honestly, just surviving your grief. And then hopefully as you move along, you're going to learn how to manage your grief and mourn and hopefully resolve some of your grief and be able to move through to a brighter days and a better season. But I want to set a couple of expectations or ideas for you to think about. Number one, I really hope that you embrace the idea that this grief and mourning season is meant to be a season and not a sentence. What you deal with and the things you have to learn to mitigate should not be something that you have to do for the rest of your life. This is going to be an intense period where you're going to need to learn some new skills. You're going to need to ask for some help. You're going to need to have patience for yourself and with yourself. You're going to be operating at a bit of a slower pace. You're going to be a little incapacitated in some ways, and to just give yourself grace to understand that this is a season and a period of recovery. But I also simultaneously want to set the hope and expectation with you that this will not be this way forever. That as you move through grief and loss, and most importantly, how you move through grief and loss is going to determine how long you're in this very heavy, hard place and the speed at which you can get back to or move forward to functioning and eventually finding joy and pleasure and being excited for your future. But all of that is possible. If you take nothing else out of this video, I hope that you take that away with you. Now, the first year, in my opinion, is harder than most for a lot of reasons, because you have to go through all the firsts, right? There's going to be a mark on the calendar for every first without your loved one. You're going to have to go through all of the holidays, their birthday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, an anniversary, all of those dates that are significant to you and the person you lost. You're going to have to go through these for the first time this first year, and that can be hard. So just knowing that and thinking about that ahead of time and having a game plan for yourself is going to do wonders for you as you move through this year. One of the gifts that I realized through going through grief and loss is how well I've learned myself. I know myself incredibly well, and I know now what I need in order to take care of myself when tough days come up or when tough situations come up. So I want to encourage you to ahead of time think about what might be most helpful to you on those tough days, and then give yourself grace and permission to just let the day be whatever it's going to be when it shows up. But I think most times, specifically with anniversaries and tough dates, it's the dreading of the date that is worse than the actual date itself. And most people don't plan or prepare, but rather they dread those dates, those anniversaries. And so then when the day comes up, they just white knuckle it and try to survive it. So I want to encourage you to not take that approach and to try to think ahead of time how you can tackle the holidays and some of those tough dates. Certainly, those are some of the resources and tips that we provide. So feel free to connect with us if you're wanting any of those resources. I also want to encourage you, especially if you're a strong, independent, type A type person like I am, to not be afraid to ask for help. I want you to ask for help for two reasons. Number one, because you need the help. This is a tremendous thing that you're facing, and having help will go a long ways. The other reason, though, I want you to not be afraid to ask for help is that people around you desperately want to help you. Friends, family, coworkers, we're so awkward when it comes to grief and loss, and most people want to help, but they don't know what to do or what to say. And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video, but you really are doing them a favor by asking for help. So I want to encourage you, especially in the beginning, but really honestly throughout that entire first year, ask for help with plans on some of those tough dates. Ask for help for things around the house, just your regular life things, because you are drained, you are fighting a fight, and it's going to be tougher than normal to clean your house and cook meals and just a lot of that kind of stuff. So anything that you can think of that you can hand off to somebody else, I'm here to tell you they want to help. People are wanting to do things for you. They just don't know what to do. So if folks can buy groceries or prepare meals, like I said, any of those things that they can take off your shoulders will bless both you and them. So I really want to encourage you, even if you're a tough, strong person, to go ahead and get help this year, especially this first year. Along those same lines, I want to encourage you, no matter where you are in your first year, to find help for the work of recovery. Now, the fact that you're on my channel tells me that you are looking for help in some kind of capacity. So kudos for that. But keep looking until you find the tools, support, and program that you are going to work with in order to recover from this loss. You can shorten the learning curve, the grieving, mourning, the heavy part of it tremendously by working with somebody else. While all the work has to be done individually, it can be accelerated exponentially by getting the right tools and support and help. So, of course, we have programs aimed at this, and I would love for you to work with us. We have coaches and programs to help you in your grief recovery. But honestly, whether it's with us or not with us, whether you find books or counseling, whatever your recovery path looks for you, I want to encourage you as soon as possible to seek out and find the program, the tools that you're going to use in your grief recovery. And I want to encourage you to really dive deep into those tools and take the time to learn and master them. It will serve you well in years to come. And I personally believe there's no sooner time to do that than right now. There's no such thing as starting your grief recovery work too soon. That's just not a thing, in my opinion. Because the other piece of it is, and a piece of advice for your first year is, you're going to meet and find a lot of people who have opinions about your grief recovery. People are going to tell you all sorts of things. And I want you to know that it's up to you to decide what you're going to believe and what you're going to come into agreement with, and you are going to chart your own course and path. But be very careful what you listen to, who you listen to, because what you come into agreement with is either going to accelerate your healing or it's going to slow down or even hinder your healing. So many people said so many things to me in the first year after loss, and I hear it from our clients all the time. People are going to tell you that the second year is worse than the first year. And people are going to tell you that you never recover. You just learn to live with it. People might even tell you that their pain is the same today as it was 20 years ago when they lost their loved one. I'm here to tell you that while that may be true for them, it doesn't need to be true for you. You need to decide what you want your path to look like going forward, and what you believe about that is going to make a tremendous difference. I also want to encourage you in the first year to embrace in the work of recovery, because what I find is the people who say that the second or the third year are the hardest is because they haven't really worked through the loss. A lot of people, and there's no shame or condemnation, but a lot of people either avoid it altogether, they distract themselves, they get really busy, or they just shrink back and kind of lay down and exist instead of live, or instead of engaging the loss and learning how to move through it. So I want to implore you in this first year to begin the work of doing the recovery work that's needed in order to move through it and get back to living a life that you love. Because if not, your second or third year may be harder than your first year. But I'm here to paint the picture and let you know the story that if you will engage this, we work with so many people that in their first year come and do the work of recovery, and within their first year, within a few months actually, they're feeling significantly better. They're back engaged with their life. They're looking forward to their future. And yeah, they miss their loved one and they have a plan and a strategy for when those tough dates are going to come up. I want you to know that it is absolutely possible, right? But this first year as a whole, if you think again, let's go back to when you have a newborn baby. There's so many milestones in that first year. And what that baby looks like at 1 year old compared to when it was born, and what your life looks like 1 year into it compared to when they're newborn, is tremendously different. And going through loss is similar. So what your life is going to look like a year from now is really different from when you first lose your loved one. But again, a lot of that is going to be dependent upon what you do and how you engage with the grief and loss. The last piece I want to just encourage you with is the fact that chances are most, if not all, of your relationships have changed. So when you go through grief and loss, especially someone very close to you, you are changed. And the people around you are also experiencing grief and loss. And a lot of times, most often, we expect the people around us to be able to love and support us well. And a lot of times they're just not able to, either because they're grieving themselves or they're just unaware of how to really support you well. And that can be surprising and really discouraging to a lot of people. So I want to encourage you, if you're finding your relationship strained, if you're finding your friendships and the folks that you thought were going to be there to support you, you're finding that they're just unable to, they're not understanding you, just keep going. Seek out folks that do understand you. Unfortunately, you're now a part of this club. We always say, like, you don't know until you know. You know, grief and loss is one of those things that you truly don't know what it's like until you go through it. And so for a lot of people, you may have friends or coworkers or people that mean well, but if they've never experienced loss, they really don't understand what you're going through. So it's a combination of giving them grace and understanding that they just don't know what they don't know. And also becoming an advocate for yourself, that you go find the support that you need. If your friends and coworkers and whoever in your life aren't supporting you well, if they're not listening to what you have to say, if they're not a safe place for you to talk about the loss, then you need to go find community and support that will, because community is a vital piece of your recovery. We don't just recover in a vacuum, right? It's not a good idea. So I want to encourage you to go find the people that get it. You know, some of my dearest friends, actually my closest friends at this point, are people who've been through loss, because I find they're the people who get me the most. They understand my point of view and what I'm going through. Those are the people that I call when stuff comes up for me in life, and I treasure them and adore them. And I'm so thankful for their presence in my life. So I'm here to tell you, they are out there. Relationships like that are out there. So if your support system is lacking, don't give up. Go find the appropriate support system that can serve and love you well. But there's a lot of heavy lifting in this first year. There's a lot of just surviving. There's moving through the initial shock and kind of numb feeling to then the reality sinking in that the loss is real, and then fumbling and stumbling your way around to try to figure out how do you live life now after loss. But there's also tremendous opportunity for growth and progress in this first year, and you can make tremendous progress. You can recover quite a bit. And you can deal with the processing of the loss piece of it, so that you can shift your focus to learning to live and building this new life in this new landscape, right? That doesn't include the physical presence of your loved one. And that process in and of itself can be scary and sad and lonely, but it can also be exciting and new. Believe it or not, there are still good things in store for you and good seasons ahead of you. So I hope that you find this video helpful. Again, check out the entire series that breaks down the first year, but please know that recovery is possible, and it's possible faster than you think. And also please know that myself and all the coaches here at Grace for Living After Loss are here to help in any way that we can, and we are cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, guys.